A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove the splinter from your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter from your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good, but an evil person out of the store of evil produces evil. For from the fullness of the heart the mouth speaks. The Gospel of the Lord. Out of the goodness of the heart, fruit will be known by the tree which grows it. There's a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the grain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the trees to drop. Here's a strange and bitter crop. Well, those are lyrics from what may be arguably one of the bleakest and most honest songs in the American repertoire. The song recorded in 1939 by the great singer Billie Holiday, a woman who could put soul into her song and move the very souls of whoever was listening to it. One of the greatest singers, in my opinion, in the American music history. The song, Strange Fruit, as it was called, was composed by Alan Amirapol. He eventually became a composer. He was a high school teacher for a while. He turned out to be actually James Baldwin's, the famous writer and activist, James Baldwin's high school teacher. So Amirapol came from a place where he thought deeply about any number of things. And of course, the song that he wrote, Strange Fruit, talks about a very, very dark part of our American history where people were really being killed because of their race. And there were policies and a culture and a climate that allowed that, if not encouraged it, especially at certain times in certain places in our nation. And Amirapol thought he needed to write about that. He needed to use his art in that way. There's a way in which I think he was not afraid to step into difficult stuff in order to try to produce some good fruit, to make us aware of the fact that we need to be able to grow something better here because this is horrible. And so I think there's something for us to consider that in today's gospel. Jesus definitely is advising you and me to say, hey, get your own house in order. Attend to your own ways in which you have your own blind spots, your own biases. Otherwise, you're just going to be moping along here and you're going to continue to make mistakes that aren't helpful. Attend to yourself. We're on the verge in a few days of entering into the Lenten season, and thank God for Lent. It's a time in which the church says to us, do you want to work on yourself and something that you need? Is there a special grace that you need? I know that's true for me every single Lenten season, and I go into it not so much concerned about what I should or shouldn't do for Lent, but more focused as the older I get on whatever special grace needs to be given to Dan Joyce at this time in his life. And I've got 40 days to be open, to look for it, to find it, and then to claim it. I don't know that I always get that right. It's not easy. But thank God the church reminds me every year to do that work, to do that good personal work, the same kind of work that I think Jesus is talking about in today's Gospel of Luke. That kind of work on our own biases and our own shortcomings that allow us then to ask for the grace that works on our nature, ask for the grace that we need in order to be the person God made us to be, that incredibly beautiful and loving person. But the problem is we have out there narratives that are asking us to be bad fruit, to be perfectly frank. Negative, if not outrightly demeaning kind of conversation, and policies that are brutal, much like what motivated Miracle and Billie Holiday to compose and sing that song "Strange Fruit" back in the late 30s. We too could look around and see that there's some real serious stuff going on in our own society, and people are getting seriously hurt. And so we need, I think, as Christians to say, okay, regardless of the politics of all of this, and regardless of even how I may feel about some of this, now that's asking a lot, how I may feel about some of this, I need to take a serious look at this from the lens of my own Christian faith. And I need to be able to step forward into a grace that I need that helps me maybe repair some of that bad fruit that I've been producing. I need to be able to look at a heart that is designed and created in the image and likeness of God for goodness, out of the goodness of one's heart. One of the tougher parts of this gospel today is it talks about an evil person. And I think right now we have this way of saying, oh, this person's evil and this person's good. Well, that's not what in other parts of our gospels we hear from Jesus. He's saying, no, it's not that you're evil by nature. It's that you can do evil. You can accomplish evil. So there's this process of looking for a grace from God and letting that grace work on our worst selves in order to be our true selves, which is that good and loving person, that heart that can produce good at any given time in any given circumstance. And so, friends, as we prepare to go into this Lenten season, you and I may want to look at what kind of fruit have we been producing. I'm certainly taking a look at that. And then saying to ourselves, what kind of fruit is being produced out here in my own culture, my own society? And how do I cooperate or resist that? How do I produce good fruit? In some ways, we need to be able to enter into that difficult journey. St. Ignatius, in his first week of the spiritual exercises, asks us to take a hard and good look at ourselves and be open about our own sinfulness so that we can all the more receive that abundant grace that we need in order to be that authentic person and have the freedom to make the choices that produce good fruit. That old song, that soulfully sung, bleak but powerfully honest song that Billie Holiday captured its essence so many years ago, goes and says, the pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolias sweet and fresh, then the sudden smell of burning flesh. May our senses and hearts be open as we enter into Lent in order to see where maybe some good fruit is not being produced by us and by our society. And may we all then, myself included, receive the grace that we need in order to step into that help from God that allows me to amend any way in which I have produced bad fruit, so that my heart, open and created by God for goodness, can be as it is made and called to be. God bless.